All right, let's pick up on that top story, and it's what's been happening in Riverlea, south of Johannesburg, over the past few days. We know that over the weekend, 5 people were killed. This is as a result of running battles between rival zama gangs that are operating in disused mines in the area. Well, the residents of Riverlea, who just want a peaceful life, like all of us, have eventually started protesting because they are so fed up with the levels of criminality that they have to live with every single day. Yesterday, you'll remember, the police minister was in the area. He said within 24 hours, things will be dramatically changed in that part of Johannesburg. Let's bring in our senior reporter, Aviwe Mtila. Aviwe, thank you so much for joining us in studio. First of all, 24 hours on, have the minister's promises come true?
Not according to the people of Riverlea, not according to the CPF, and not according to what we saw from the early hours of the morning when I did my even first crossing there, just after 7 o'clock, speaking to some of the community members, community activists that told us that nothing had happened overnight. That TRT or amapereta that was promised immediately after Police Minister Pegicele left at around 5 o'clock yesterday, it wasn't there. And 24 hours later, today when I was there again, in those visuals that you saw actually, still that deployment hadn't been there, and that even stringent enforcement of law enforcement authorities that was supposed to be there 24 hours later, that the police kept mum about in terms of the actual deployment that would be there, we didn't see any of it.
So those specialized forces are not there, but what we are seeing, and we played those visuals in our headlines, of the police rounding up some people that they suspect to be zamas and trying to load them into the back of a van. But that, to me, and you'll correct me if I'm wrong, doesn't look like an organized strategy to deal with this problem.
Sally, those visuals I watched as the show began now, and you'd think actually the police are doing the most in apprehending zamas, but the reality is that those are just 6 people that were arrested out of at least 3 dozen. And it's not the police going after these illegal miners, more than it's these very illegal miners that are coming to the police, as you can see in the screen.
So this was shot, just context for our viewers, this was shot early evening, sort of at about 5:30. You were on site here. And these were people, am I right, had they come up from underground?
Yes, Sally, they coming to the police themselves to offer themselves over. These aren't arrests made by police. I remember when I got there, counted the police, there were at least about half a dozen police on the ground. By the end of it all, there was at least a dozen, at least 12 police.
And did police eventually take these people away?
No, not at all. They ran away. The police, they basically told the police, we are here to work. Our problem is that we have this turf war. And I remember even speaking to some of these zamas who were telling me that, in fact, they're here to work. They are Basotho nationals in the majority.
This is the stuff, this gentleman, and I think we're going to see the whole clip. He walked up to the police at one point.
There he is,
what
Sally.
happened here?
Sally, this is the exact point that I'm trying to drive through. This was not the police making arrests, more than these zamas going to the police, offering themselves over, trying to make their plea on what their side of the story is. Because these are the zamas that were telling me that live just right across the road there in the Zanampilo in settlements. The police weren't going after them, more than them going to the police. And then after they decided they're tired of all of this, because there were at least 30 plus zamas on the ground, they decided to run, and the police had to scramble to get whoever they could. Hence, they made those 6 arrests. Not necessarily.
Okay, so in terms of chronology, the shots we saw in our headlines of the police vans parked on the road, that happened after these shots.
This is the end of it all. Those shots that the opening shots that we had on the show were actually the closing shots in terms of sequence that happened here. These zamas went to the police. They had that conversation with the police. I had conversations with some of them on air, Sally.
Yes, so the guy in the khaki we've just seen, quite smartly dressed, he seemed, he seemed to be very eloquent. And it's interesting that they are approaching the police and saying, we are here. They obviously feel they have a story to tell. So what are they saying?
So they're saying that the turf wars that are going on is between them and another group of illegal miners, zamas. They admittedly confess that they are zamas, Sally. So they're having these turf wars. They are from the nearby Zanampilo informal settlement. And now these turfers emanate from people that they actually used to work with underground in this illegal mining operation. They've had a fallout, and they're saying that it's not them that are doing the killings. Hence, they were even brazen enough to go to the police. They're saying that it's actually the other group that doesn't live far away from where we are that is targeting them and shooting them. So the bodies that were found over the weekend, they're saying that it's some of their own people that are being shot by the other rival gang, and they don't actually see anything wrong in what they're doing. They're saying that they're here to work.
The reality is they're not legally allowed to work, but there is a vast difference between someone who's eking out a living as an artisanal miner and someone who's a criminal and part of a gang dealing in this gold that is found in these old mines. Often we see these artisanal miners are co-opted into the gangs, whether they like it or not. The reality is it's a massive underground operation in more senses than one. And from what we're seeing here, yes, there were a couple of arrests by the police. There doesn't seem to be any systematic approach, any plan from the police on how they tackle this. The people of the community just
It's
in the middle.
It's being allowed to happen. If anything, from what I saw myself today, it's been allowed to happen. I remember I was there in the early hours of the morning, and the zamas were actually coming back from work, from their holes, even running in shot. I remember my camera colleague, Teddy Mnyembane, showing us those visuals of them coming back from their work and crossing the road. Just right down the road, some 500 meters or so, is a roadblock, a JMPD roadblock. So this is some sort of, to me, it looks like it's known by the authorities. It's being let to happen,
Why?
Sally. And
Why?
if we weren't there ourselves today, I'm sure there'd be hardly any arrests in the area.
Why is it being left to happen? Is it because police simply don't have the resources or the plan? Or is there something more sinister at play?
That's a big question, Sally, and those people that are in the know-how will tell you there's something more than that. We know how the corruption of it all happens, but of course I don't want to speculate or anything. I'm just going to speak on what I've seen today, and that it's quite brazen and it's been let to happen, Sally.
From what you've seen today, bearing in mind you said at the top that this isn't a changed community, pretty much as the police minister promised 24 hours ago. What's going to happen for the law-abiding residents of Riverlea who seem to be, these are the people who wake up with dead bodies in their garden?
They wanted those answers yesterday from the police minister. I remember having that conversation with Ishmael van Wyk early hours of the morning. He was disappointed that, while the 24 hours hadn't lapsed, they hadn't seen any TRT or amaparete giving time to Police Minister Pegegcele. 24 hours lapsed. I spoke to the councillor of the area, Councillor Doyle in the city of Johannesburg. He was disappointed himself, saying that they need further engagements. And actually, General Zulu, I remember in that briefing and that community address by Police Minister yesterday, Pegegcele, saying that General Zulu would be the one taking care of things. She was there after seeing, of course, all this chaos play out. Later on, addressing the policemen themselves. I pulled her aside, asking General, what's happening?
Yeah.
I mean, really, this can't be the case. We don't see the TRT that was promised immediately. She seemed to suggest that they were scouting out the area for the majority of last night and this morning and today, and promising that they'd go in then into the community later on this evening. That's the promise.
So maybe we'll see something happening tonight. The reality is, why give a specific deadline in front of the media if you don't actually know what the plan is by your team? That is a real concern. So as it stands, this community right now, no real change. A couple of police wandering around half-heartedly at times trying to make arrests.
Are they even wandering around? Because we didn't see them on the streets.
Didn't you say that they actually left before you left?
No, yes.
Yeah.
That incident that happened now, we were the last one to speak to the illegal miners as they trickled back again after those arrests that you made of the 6 out of the at least 3 dozen that were there engaging with the police. Because it was a mere engagement, Sally. In all honesty, it wasn't an arrest. They approached the police themselves and then decided to run away. And that's when the police scrambled to grab whoever they could.
Unbelievable. Senior reporter Aviwe Mtila has just returned from Riverlea, astonishing a story of what actually is happening.